Five, four, three, two, and one. Hello and welcome to Robert's Daily New Podcast. I am Bryson, and joining me today is my close friend and confidant, Cad. Say hi, Cad.
Hi, everyone.
That's enough. Okay. We have a lot of good discussion points for you today, and they're all listed to the right. We will do our best to stay on topic, but I will not make any promises because if anybody knows me, I go off on wild tangents all the time. So we might not even get past the first one because it's a big one for me. Um, I'll read off these topics. For some reason, you can't see them. We have Christianity in America. We're going to go over whether or not Christianity is under attack, what's going on with religious liberties and freedoms, not just for Christianity, but Christianity being the main topic. We're going into abortion in relation to value of human life. This is not a discussion on whether or not abortion should be legal or available. All right, premarital sex and the issue of single mothers. This is also not saying that single mothers are an issue. This is trying to tie the points together between is premarital sex and single mother households. Are they, conjoined in some way, shape, or form? And then the juiciest and the most hot topic of the week, and it's only Tuesday. Racist Roseanne getting fired from ABC because she's dropping heavy racist tweets on the Obama administration. So, without waiting, let's go into the first topic. Okay. All right. So we transitioned into this Christianity in America. All right. And my big thing is religious liberty, religious freedom for all people. That's what our First Amendment's gifted to us for, and that's what we should oblige to all American citizens and people that aren't even citizens. I think of all the constitutional rights afforded that we could give to someone that's not even a citizen of this country. I think the First Amendment is the make or break, and that's what sets us apart from every other free nation on this planet. But we have a problem, right? And most of the time we see that problem in like college campuses, more like liberal studies and stuff like that. Not saying liberals, but liberal study academia places where people are a little bit worried about their tenure, their jobs. Like let's not step on these toes, let's not ruffle these feathers, and everyone's trying to appease everybody. But we come into these issues where you have 45, 50-year-old adults trying to appease 17-year-old kids who don't even know what the fuck they want for breakfast, right? So this perfect example, and this is about Christianity under attack. It's not really going into liberals first, so hate speech, yada yada yada. Um, but we have a pretty big situation in Harvard, and uh, the big thing is Harvard is attacking a Christian group for acting like Christians, right? As you can see in the little snippet to the right, it's talking about Freedom House puts on an index rating for countries' free party for free or not free based on whether the citizens have certain rights most Americans consider fundamental. Harvard is not on that list, nor do they meet the requirements. Okay, so the issue is at Harvard, there's a Christian fellowship program that was put on probation last week because they found out that one of the people that was in their organization participated in same-sex relations or homosexual relations. And as a Christian and speaking purely biblically, that is a sin. And those are not people that you have in positions of leadership. Not to say you denounce them, you don't judge them, you don't hurt them, you don't hate them, but you have to excommunicate them from that position of leadership because that is a lifestyle choice that is not biblical. Not to say everybody doesn't sin, but and all sin is the same, but there's something about a sinful lifestyle and a sin that are different. So we go into the idea that they removed her from that position of leadership, and then the college suspended that Christian fellowship because the college's policies and guidelines based off discrimination on sexual orientation does not it surpasses their discrimination on theological disagreement. So the group was suspended until further notice, and because of the college's guidelines, even though they are a religious fellowship that is backed by multiple religious groups and other companies that fund religious groups all over the country in different universities are a big part of this specific fellowship. We won't go into their name, but it is true story. So you can find all this information on the what was the name of that website? Let's see. Let's get this information. I don't have it. Well, the whole article's in the Harvard Crimson, which is the college's newspaper. I got this from another website that just reported on it, and I forgot to get the name of it, but it is a real article. Um, and so we go into these things, and we're always talking about religious freedoms, this, that, and the third. We think that these people should have the right to pray wherever they want to pray. These people should have the right to not pray if they don't want to pray. These people should have the right to not say under God. These people should have the right to say under God. Yada yada yada. So we go into, is Christianity in America under attack? Now people will argue because the predominant amount of people in this country are Christian. We wear crosses around our neck. Everybody at every awards ceremony ever is talking about giving the glory to God, even though most of them aren't truly Christian, nor do they even believe in God. They're just doing it to appease their fans. So people will say Christianity is not under attack because we are in a nation where every single president in our country has declared themselves as a Christian. But we know that that can't possibly be true with the kind of scandal and nonsense that those guys go through. So is Christianity under attack? It absolutely is, and it's not under attack the way saying oh they're still Christians, they're still Christians. Yeah. Now when kids are not allowed to pray in schools, um, at lunch and stuff like that, but then they're making prayer rooms for other religious groups, that would say Christianity is under attack. Now, I don't think that those kids shouldn't have their prayer rooms. I just think that it should be equal for the First Amendment. Everyone should have their own religious practices and liberties. Same thing with most atheist movements or anti-God movements or anti-Christian God movements. Now, you can argue that Islam, Judaic values, and Christian values all worship the same God, but the intrinsic value is completely different to the point where, yes, I might worship the same God as a Muslim, um, but our practices are so different that it might as well be night and day. And that's what I'm saying. So if that guy, if these kids or these people have the religious liberty to have a room set aside for them to pray or to pray to their God the way they want to, without any objectification or anybody being mean to them or judging them or spitting on them, which is not something that really happens, but you get what I'm saying. I think that everyone else should have that right, uh, and even the people with the ridiculous like made up religions, right? Whether they're true or not, you're talking about like Scientology, Pastafarianism, joke stuff like that. Things that are here to mock religion. Even those guys should have that same religious freedom because that's what the First Amendment stands for. It doesn't say you have right to religious freedom of expression only if we deem that religion fit. No, because what you believe is what you believe, and if you're truly devout to whatever you believe in, whether it's the Jedi Order or anything like that, um, I think that no one should infringe on that First Amendment right. That's why it's all the way at the bottom, number one, right? um, so I've talked a lot, and I tend to do that a lot. So the big questions we have, and that's why I have Kat on here, is because I tend to drift way right with my thinking. Now I am more center than most people that would consider themselves conservative, but I am very right leaning, and I won't even deny that, right? And as a Christian man, a straight Christian man in this country, my opinion is pretty much null, because I do think the way I think because I want those basic moral values instilled in my children and I'm raising young men. I'm raising young Christian white men, so I'm just part of the problem because I'm breeding more white privilege. But Kat, I have a couple questions for you if you don't mind answering them. The first one I have: do you, in your personal opinion, um, you don't have to explain your religious denomination or your views at all. Do you, in your own opinion, do you think that Christianity is under attack in this country or even the world, and why do you think that?
Yeah, I will say I'm a Christian, a male Christian, straight male Christian. I don't mind saying that. I'm maybe not as strong of a Christian as you would be. I could probably consider myself a lukewarm Christian, but I do pray to God. Um, but I do think Christianity is under attack in some way, shape, or form, as well as other religions. in America. Why? I think it has to be the way that social media has been sort of skewing the view of life in this country, and how everybody wants their way of life to be normal.
Yeah, I get that.
Because 200 years ago, a normal American was a Christian. Goes to church every Sunday.
White man, right?
Not necessarily. I
No,
mean,
no, you're right. You're
African
right.
Americans and
Yeah.
and the Native Americans have been around for a while. I'm not saying Native Americans are Christians. They Some of them may be, but it's not for me to say that about them. But I do think yes, it is. I've seen it growing up. Obviously, I'm an '80s baby, so earlier on in my life, that was something that we did. Just going back to saying the Pledge of Allegiance, something like that in school. But so yes, I would definitely agree that it is. And why, in my opinion, in my stance, I would have to say it's definitely social media driven, and the way how quickly and accessible information is to anybody, a person
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Cad, man. Like when you see these things, there's like mutating on social media where it's like one day there's a trend and then there's another trend and then there's this other marginalized group and this group needs some sort of marginalization. This group needs special handouts. This group is a special needs group. This group's a special needs group. We need to have a day for this group. We need to have a flag for this group. When everyone thinks they're important, no one's important, right? And like the most unoriginal idea in the human mind ever is that you're special. And like I'm not saying that people aren't special and everyone doesn't bring something to the table. What I'm saying more importantly is you're not that special.
No, I feel like this sense of needing praise
Hmm.
is too large right now.
Yeah, and
I I don't think
you're
you should be
hitting the
pat
nail on
on
the
the
head.
back. I feel like you should, people, we as humans need praise for certain things. If you
Yeah,
go through your entire life and let's say you live 85 years and nobody praises you for anything, you're going to feel like a shitty person.
yeah, it's
Like
gonna
you haven't done
suck.
anything.
Hmm.
But but just like being a kid and having the responsibility of taking the trash out every Tuesday or something like that.
It's a big deal.
You don't get praised for that.
Yeah, you do. You get a roof over your head and
Yeah.
3 squares a day.
What's
No,
the what's the meme like? Did you have an allowance growing up? Yeah, my parents allowed me to live there.
yeah, that's the one, man. But no, you're hitting the nail on the head, and it's really good to hear that clear view because like, you're not coming from an objective standpoint, and it's hard for me to get that stuff because I am so like emotionally driven on these things. Not to the point where I don't have a clear form of thinking, but like uh, if someone's not there going against me, I just get off on these weird trains of thought, and
Yeah,
sometimes,
understood.
and my wife thinks the same way I do, and what is my 4-year-old gonna do? He's not gonna argue with me. I'm huge. Uh, but when you talking about that we need praise and we need this weird you didn't use the word, but this like weird recognition where like someone's got to tell me I'm doing a good job to do a good job. You know, I see that all the time, and I've suffered from that. But as an adult, I catch myself, pretty often like what the fuck do I don't care what this person thinks about me, right? Like that should be the key. Like, I don't care what this person thinks about me. I don't care what this person thinks about me. Um,
But you should to a certain extent.
yeah, and I think I should care what people think about my character. I don't think that I should care so much about what they think.
That's the certain extent I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
But the issue with the issue that we have from time to time is who's telling these kids that they're not. Like as the single mother rates rise, and premarital bliss, right? I mean, I'm a hypocrite, right? But as all this stuff increases in single mother households, there's no father figure to give them that information. And there's usually not even a mother figure there to give them that information because someone's got to work. Um, but I totally agree with you, fully. Um, next question, man. We went off a little bit long on that one.
Yeah.
uh,
It's one more thing
go,
on that,
yeah,
and
go
then
ahead,
we'll
man.
go. Takes a
No,
village to raise a child,
you're
but
right. But the village has to have a chief, right?
All right, next question.
All right. All right. The next question I have on this one specifically is, as a Christian, um, what is your view on abortion and sex? Now, not whether or not it should be legal or this, that, and the third, right? Because that's what we're going into. But as a Christian person, uh, what is your views on abortion and sex, and why is that one question? Because I expect a similar answer between the two because of what they are. And then if you could explain on that, that'd be if you can expand on that answer, that'd be great.
Um, well, I will say my views of sex. Uh, for the most part, I feel like I can safely say that consensual sex everybody likes,
I think
right?
so. Yeah,
Yeah. There may be some small percentage of people. Like I said, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I haven't done any research about it, but I will say that everybody likes. Is it right according to the Bible? No. Uh, I, but I also don't have. I have a focus group of sex for from my personal point of view.
yeah, yeah.
I don't have one for abortion.
I feel
I
you. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I I had sex before marriage, you know.
me too.
But unfortunately, well, I don't have. Unfortunately, for this question, I do not have.
I was just thinking, like, if you did correct
It's
so unfortunately, I haven't had any of these abortions.
but no, it's. I'm not trying to say it's that's
I know, I know, I
unfortunate.
know, I know.
It's unfortunate that I can't give you my. Uh, I, I,
No, I get it. Your opinion on this subject wouldn't be the same as mine. Like, I got two kids, and I got another kid on the way, and
correct,
stuff like that. So, like,
correct.
we obviously come
Now,
from different worlds, and maybe you would feel stronger one way or the other if you had a kid. You know what I mean? I get it. I
but
get
I
it.
will say I have had friends who have partaken in the act of an abortion.
Hmm.
I'm very open to the topic,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to argue one way or the other because it hasn't personally touched me.
Right.
And you can argue that and say, well, you're Cad, you said you're a Christian. Yes, I understand that, but I'm a very lukewarm Christian, and I'm not picking and choosing the parts of the Bible that I want to. I believe what I want to believe, and I feel like you believe what you want to believe.
That's right. That's right.
And I understand it says in the Bible to, Jesus said, go and, spread the word of the Lord. And I understand that. And that's awesome because I think Christianity has very good moral values that it preaches. And that I'm all about that. But I'm not one to impede on someone else.
No, I feel you. I totally agree with that. That's why the big thing about this wasn't about legality or whether they should be available or anything like that. And like
Yeah.
the question was a pretty quick one, and you pretty much answered it even without answering it, which is good. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable at all
I'm
either.
dodging it. Oh no, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm
You,
just I
what
wanted to
you dodging it?
answer,
What is this? The draft?
I wanted to answer truthfully, and
No, you're
that's as
dead.
truthful of an
And
answer as I can
and
give you on that.
I can't appreciate that any more than I actually do, man. But since we're talking about abortion, we got to go on the next hot topic, and
Yep.
it's abortion. All right, so the key is, man, I want to clarify this one more time because I got a lot of nut job friends who I love a lot
Yes.
that think the argument of abortion morality is the same argument about abortion legality. Those
Okay.
are I don't have those two arguments as one because those are two different topics. If anybody knows me or has a conversation with me more than 30 minutes, you know that I don't just talk out of my ass about this stuff. I have conviction about what I talk about. I usually don't sell you something I wouldn't buy myself, kind of stuff. Um, but the big thing is we go into numbers, right? And we have to go into these numbers because either someone's lying or something's getting better, right? So we did a podcast like what, a year and a half ago, Cad,
Yeah.
and
I think it was right around after the election, probably
yeah,
a few
yeah,
months
it was
after.
real close to the election, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But the big thing,
very tense time in
yeah,
America.
I was super tense. I was at the top of the mountain. Um, so the thing is, the numbers that we had like a year ago are significantly different than the numbers I have in front of me, and believe it or not, they're from the same exact year ranges. So
I believe it. I believe it.
So last last year when we had the podcast, my big issue, right? I'm not speaking for you or anybody else. My big issue was the amount of abortions that are happening and the amount of later term abortions that were happening, right? So I think we came to a discussion and an agreement between me, you, and Kyle about like, okay, I think 21 weeks is ridiculous. And then we even brought up a chart and looked at what a baby looks like all the way up to like 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and pretty much
Yes.
it almost looks like a baby already. So we kind of having those discussions about like,
It blew my mind.
yeah, and then I think the biggest discussion then was legality and we were kind of I was using the term like a recreational abortion versus a necessity abortion or stuff like that, and we're going into that. But this is not what we're doing this time, and that's for all the people that have seen my podcast in the past. Don't get either your panties in a bunch, or some of my friends on the other end are like, so yeah, talk about it. That's not happening today. What we're going into is that since 1973, that's Roe v. Wade, right? That's the year that was passed. 60 million abortions, legal abortions, and those are only the ones that are reported. So a couple states aren't legally required to report their abortions. California, who has the most every year, even though they don't report it.
You're from California.
I know I am from California. Wait, I could have swore I said I was a straight Christian man. Nah, I must be a gay. But so like there's been over 60 million abortions since Roe v. Wade was passed, and this is based on the CDC, and this is repeated a Guttmacher. But the big thing is multiple states aren't required to give their numbers. So then that's around 1998, okay, where those states didn't have to do it anymore. So we see a dramatic decline in annual abortions since then, when you don't include California, New Hampshire, New York, other states that are required to do it. But either way, even if you added them, the numbers are still, pretty much going down, which is really good. But they're going down by percentages, right? So if you have let's say it was like 1.2 million abortions one year, and it went down 5%. It's still 1.2 million abortions, So it's like they're going down by percentages, and they use percentages to misconstrue you into thinking that the issue has been resolved, but it has not. So the big thing is when we're talking to abortion and we're talking to morality and things like that, you have a couple situations, right, where you say, is an abortion a necessity or is it recreation? That's for you guys to decide. We're not going to have that conversation today. But the numbers are dropping, and that's all we can hope for, right? Because even for the people that are pro-choice, I hope that most of you still don't want the woman to have to get one, right? So, and that's for the people that advocate they want more contraceptives, whether it be reversible or irreversible, this, that, and the third. These people want that stuff, so I'm thinking they also don't want to have abortions. They just want them to be readily available. As we see the numbers drop, the only thing that I ever care to have the discussion about mostly is that we're not removing the value of life to meet some sort of moral high ground so we can justify whatever we want to do, right? Because we've seen the Nazis do that to the Jews. We've seen the original settlers of this country do that to black Americans. Well, they weren't. Well, you know what I'm saying, to the slaves.
I mean, it's going on all around the world right
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're just talking about this great country of ours where we've had that issue where we dehumanize something to take advantage of it and do whatever we want with it, right? So as we as a society considered blacks as subhuman and less than human, it kind of gave us a moral justification to treat them whichever way we want. And that's exactly what the Nazis did in Germany. They devalued the Jews.
What we did to Native Americans.
Yeah, called them savages was the easiest thing. And this is since the dawn of man when it comes to justifying morally murder, right? So all of the ancient Roman empires and Greek empires and every time they go to another civilized nation that didn't speak their language, they said they were savages, so the men would sleep well at night, right? So you devalue something so you could take advantage of it and do whatever you want to it. And that's why I say, like, as a society, let's not care so much about whether abortion's legal or illegal. Let's just make sure that our morality's in the right point, or in the right place, so we're not just adjusting our moral compass to point to whatever north we want. And I'm just going to take a little break off that, and I'm going to play a little video that's just about the morality of it, and hopefully you guys get some good information off of it.
Let's talk about one of the most emotionally charged subjects there is, abortion, but in an unemotional way. Also, let's not touch on the question that most preoccupies discussion of the subject, whether abortion should be legal or illegal. The only question here is the moral one. Is ending the life of a human fetus moral? Let's begin with this question. Does the human fetus have any value and any rights? Now, it's a scientific fact that a human fetus is human life. Those who argue that the human fetus has no rights say that a fetus is not a person. But even if you believe that, it doesn't mean the fetus has no intrinsic value or no rights. There are many living beings that are not persons that have both value and rights. Dogs and other animals, for example. And that's moral argument number one. A living being doesn't have to be a person in order to have intrinsic moral value and rights. When challenged with this argument, people usually change the subject to the rights of the mother, meaning the right of a mother to end her fetus's life under any circumstance, for any reason, and at any time in her pregnancy. Is that moral? It is only if we believe that the human fetus has no intrinsic worth. But in most cases, nearly everyone believes that the human fetus has essentially infinite worth and an almost absolute right to live. When? When a pregnant woman wants to give birth. Then society and its laws regard the fetus as so valuable that if someone were to kill that fetus, that person could be prosecuted for homicide. Only if a pregnant woman doesn't want to give birth do many people regard the fetus as worthless. Now, does that make sense? It doesn't seem to. Either a human fetus has worth or it doesn't. And this is moral argument number two. On what moral grounds does the mother alone decide a fetus's worth? We certainly don't do that with regard to a newborn child. It is society, not the mother or the father, that determines whether a newborn child has worth and a right to live. So the question is, why should that be different before the human being is born? Why does one person, a mother, get to determine whether that being has any right to live? People respond by saying that a woman has the right to control her body. Now, that is entirely correct. The problem here, however, is that the fetus is not her body. It is in her body. It is a separate body. And that's moral argument number three. No one ever asks a pregnant woman, "How's your body?" when asking about the fetus. People ask, "How's the baby?" Moral argument number four. Virtually everyone agrees that the moment the baby comes out of the womb, killing the baby is murder. But deliberately killing it a few months before birth is considered no more morally problematic than extracting a tooth. How does that make sense? And finally, moral argument number five. Aren't there instances in which just about everyone, even among those who are pro-choice, would acknowledge that an abortion might not be moral? For example, would it be moral to abort a female fetus solely because the mother prefers boys to girls, as has happened millions of times in China and elsewhere? And one more example. Let's say science develops a method of determining whether a child in the womb is gay or straight. Would it be moral to kill a gay fetus because the mother didn't want a gay child? People may offer practical reasons not to criminalize all abortions. People may differ about when personhood begins and about the morality of abortion after rape or incest. But with regard to the vast majority of abortions, those of healthy women aborting a healthy fetus, let's be clear. Most of these abortions just aren't moral. Good societies can survive people doing immoral things. But a good society cannot survive if it calls immoral things moral. I'm Dennis Prager. To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To help keep our videos free, donate here.
All right, guys. I hope you guys got a little bit of moral snippets from that video. Tried to find something that wasn't so save the babies, something. No,
So Robert's minded.
Yeah. I'm trying to get away from all that. Some issues in the past. We won't talk about it. But after all that, we talk about morality, healthy fetus, healthy mom. What's a moral thing? What's a wrong thing? That's to you to decide, and I'm not going to judge you. I'm still going to break bread with you. A lot of my friends don't agree with me, and they still come to my house and eat dinner. Everyone's welcome, and that's the kind of person I am. But this is a podcast, and this is supposed to be something about the idea of like, let's have a conversation, and we can't have a conversation with ourselves. So, Cad, just a quick question, man. Do you think that a fetus is life? And if you do, at what point would you consider a fetus life?
Well, I'm gonna have to tie this into the last question you asked about my take on the Christian views of abortion and sex, premarital sex. And I'm gonna have to answer. I'm gonna have to agree with what medical science determines as technically a fetus having life, which would be, I believe, around 3 to 4 weeks when there's technically a heartbeat.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I'm going to agree with that, but like I said earlier, I have not had.
No, I get it. That's It's not. You don't have to dig too deep into that question, man.
Okay.
I totally understand that. All right. So, and then what I talked about before we went into the video was even people that are pro. I wouldn't even call people pro-abortion because that seems mean, right? Because people want to have. Women want their own reproductive rights, and at some extent, I totally understand. And who am I, right, to tell them anything about it?
Pro-choice.
Yeah. So my thing is, even those people that are pro-choice and pro-abortion or pro-abortion, right? I feel in my heart that most of them still want to have less abortions, and I think that should be the end game for everybody. Like, hey, let's not have any abortions, right? Because we'd rather just these people just don't want to be pregnant and they don't want to have these kids, and like whether it's not, they're ruining their own lives. The baby can't be parented properly. They don't have the means to take care of this child. I don't care what the reason is, but it seems like they don't want the kids, right? Like, and they don't want to put the kids in that crappy lifestyle and that environment. So, do you think or have any ideas that maybe we could like move into an environment that actually just has less abortions because maybe we're better prepared? Do you have any like ideas like that maybe?
Yeah, I could be the humdrum, like, oh, we need better sex education in schools. And I think that it is a very lightly touched subject in schools, but I can only base that off of my experience, which I graduated from high school in 2005. And I can tell you that I had a sex ed class in the 4th grade or 5th grade.
Something like that, yeah.
And it was like, it was really, really basic. And it was just like, hey, you're about to go through puberty and you're going to get hair here. And this is deodorant. And don't worry if you get a boner because it's normal. I can't tell you what the women went through because they separated us. They put the females in one classroom and the males in another. And we had our week of, welcome to puberty, kids. Here you go. Yeah. Enjoy your voice cracking while you're giving a. Yeah. And other than that, you have sexual health in high school, and I remember that vaguely. And they teach you, this is a condom, this is how you use it.
Don't
this
have
is how
sex. You will get pregnant.
This is how the penis works. This is how female this is how the vagina and the ovaries work, and this and this and that. But it doesn't give you. But that's it. It's just like, it's literally that. It's not sex education. It's reproductive system education.
Yeah, it's just like a
Like,
basic science class.
and it's like, oh, and
There's not an
this
emphasis on
is
you are going to ruin your entire life.
this is gonna sound like a joke, but this movie I feel like paints a very clear picture. Have you ever seen The Girl Next Door
It's a great movie.
with Emil Hirsch
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's a great
Lisa
movie.
Cuthbert, and how they are just like, look,
The
sex ed
sexual,
is fuck, sex
yeah,
ed is fucking boring. Show them how it's really done. Like like
yeah.
that's
So we should make a porn. Isn't that what they did?
essentially, yeah, right.
With a fencing mask. That's a
Yeah,
good movie. I saw that movie a bunch. No,
but
but
no,
I agree with you, man. I agree with you, man. Like, there's too much of like, oh, this is a penis. Well, no crap. And it's 2018 now, and every kid's got a cell phone. They start watching porn when they're 6 years old because their parents pretty much just not paying attention with their iPhones, right? So like, and that's a big part of porn marketing, anyways, is get them addicted early, and they'll never stop. But every kid in by fifth grade knows what the opposite sex's body is completely by fifth, sixth grade now. So you got to be more like the emphasis isn't about hey this is blah use a condom. The emphasis is like you have no idea how terrible your life's gonna be, right? You have no idea like what you're gonna miss out on. Like you don't even know how to do taxes. You ready
well,
for this?
I think it's like a Norwegian commercial or something. It's a dad. He's in a grocery store, and his son is like, I want these sweets, and he's like, no, put them back. And then the son just goes off on a temper tantrum, and it's it's a condom commercial. Like,
Fuck, it works, man.
I mean, it's humor, and
Yeah.
and people are gonna be offended by it, which is why we don't have stuff like that in America. But
You know, people go off like when I say stuff because like I agree with you and I agree with like okay yeah I'm religious and I'm Christian and I'm super against people having sex out of wedlock because that's how you have kids out of wedlock, right? Like you can't have babies without having sex, and a kid's chance for a successful future out of wedlock is super low. So like I just think about it. Even if you can't get on board with the religious thing, you can just think of like the single mother epidemic that's going on in this country. If premarital sex isn't discussed, if like adding the value to sex isn't brought back, where you had all the way up until like the 60s, it was like 2%, less than 2% of households were was single family. It was like, and I'm talking, this is after World War II, after Korea, after Vietnam, after these wars, the houses were still together. Even like when people were dying, like it's still like less than 2% of these homes were single mother, single parent households.
okay,
And fast forward to 2018, 80 freaking, or it's like 43% of all homes are single parent homes, and like, and we know the predominant number of that is single mothers, right? Whether the guy wants to be there or not, it's irrelevant. But it's like 43% of all homes are single parent, and it's like 90
that,
something percent of that is women. But
I think you could argue that goes back to being morals, like,
you're right.
and that's just a quick answer to that argument. I'm not going to get into
No,
it,
no,
but
you're right. No, it's absolutely the morals thing, right? So if you got like what is it? So 40%. So I'm just reading. I'm going to read some stats, right? So
hmm
40% of all births in the U.S. and this is in 2008 because the CDC doesn't get their stuff on point too quick.
hmm
40.6% of all births in the U.S. were born to unmarried women, and that's double what or that's over double what it was in 1980. So it's a big jump, right? And when you talk about, oh, we just go on Oprah, see a card, see a TV show, see this, oh, all these single moms, where we just like glorify, and we shouldn't take away from the tremendous sacrifices and things that they go through to provide for these children, if they're providing for these
hmm
children. But what I'm saying is, we should probably promote two-parent households more than glorifying single-parent households, right? Because one, if well, like let's where's that number? I want to pull up that. I had a specific number I wanted to pull up for this. All right, yeah. So 40% of all live births in the U.S. are to single mothers, right?
Okay.
And 90% of all welfare recipients are also single mothers.
Okay.
So if we got rid of the single mother epidemic, we would also get rid of the welfare epidemic. It's two birds with one stone, right? So like we want these kids to be raised up because 70% of all gang members, all high school dropouts, all teen suicides, teen pregnancies, and teen substance abusers come from single mother homes. Not single parent, single mother. And statistically, a child in a single parent home is far more likely to experience violence, commit suicide, continue a cycle of poverty, or become a drug addict than someone who is in a home with both parents. And even going in there, 63% of suicides nationwide are individuals from single parent homes. 75% of children in chemical dependency hospitals are from single parent homes. More than half of all youth incarcerated in the U.S. lived in a one parent home. 37% of families led by single mothers nationwide live in poverty. Yeah, well, 90% of them are on welfare, or 90% of our welfare is them. Comparatively, only 6% of families with married parents live in poverty. 37% versus 6.
That's a big swing.
There's 360 million people in this country. It's such a huge number. According to the data from 2009 compiled by Heritage Foundation, right? So like I said, it's really hard to get these numbers because census shit is really hard with so many people. These are the most recent numbers I could get. If anybody has the more recent numbers, I don't care if I'm wrong. These aren't my numbers. I didn't look them up. Or I looked them up, but I didn't make them. So you're not going to hurt my feelings, but share them with me and let me know. If I'm off, I want to correct myself. All right.
I'm looking up that Netflix just released a series. I'm trying to find it right now just so I can get it in before we move on to the next.
All right. Well, you look for that. I'm going to get off on some more of these stats real quick, and it's only like 4 or 5 more things. So just let me know when you find it, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we go back into this single parent households, right? So the original stats I brought up were all single mother homes, right? So like we do kind of try to shy away. Oh, we mean single parent. We mean single parent. But I'm in the military, and I know what divorce is like, and I know who doesn't get custody, right? Whether it's his fault or not, he doesn't get custody. And I'm not going to get into that percentage, but there is a large percentage of single mother homes that should be single father homes.
I can vouch against that because I'm also from a divorced household, and my father got the majority of custody. He got full-time custody
Boom.
while we were in school, and I got like every other weekend with my mom and like one night a week.
Sick. All right, so that's perfect. And look where you're not at, jail, because you weren't in a single mother home.
I'm not gonna agree or disagree with that.
I was raised in a single mother home. I'm not in fucking jail, dude. Just talk about the stats here. I'm a productive member of society. My brother's a piece of shit, but like me and my sister are good. And so
I just wanted to
statistically that didn't even make sense because 1/3 is not even enough. So these stats might be off.
correct.
But you're right though. Sometimes I think things go without saying, but these are just stats and percentages. These aren't individual occurrences. These aren't anomalies. These aren't personal experiences. These are just what the government shows as stats, saying, hey, this is an issue, we got to fix it. It's not to say that there's not some dope-ass single moms, some dope-ass single dads that's really crushing it. I mean, it's not saying that.
Agreed.
What it's saying is we got an epidemic, we got to fix it, right? So, like, perfect example. Ebola, right? Ebola comes into the country. They're like, oh shit, one person has Ebola. We might need to fix that Ebola. They're like, no, but 59,999,999 people don't have it, so let's just leave it alone. No, that's not the case. All right, so there's some more stats while you're looking for that stuff. So 63% of all U.S. youth suicides is contributed to single-parent households. 90% of homeless and runaway children, single-parent households. 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders, single-parent households. 80% of rapists motivated with displaced anger, single-parent households. 71% of all high school dropouts, single-parent households. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers, single-parent households. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions, single-parent households. 85% of all youths sitting in prison, single-parent households. So we have an epidemic of, I don't know if it's the country glorifying single parents. I don't know if it's the government not to sound like a nut job, just like kind of winning by having these people. Because as long as there's single mothers, there's kids in prison. As long as there's kids in prison, the prisons are funded. That's a huge part. Like people talk about big farm, not a lot of people talk about big prison. Um, but as long as these homes are destroyed and removed and just torn apart, uh, there's more people in prison and there's less productive members of society, and these are just lives wasted. And this the only reason this is the segue from abortion is because like people use this as an excuse all the time. Like I can't provide for these children, but like you shouldn't be having sex unless you're married, right? Because you can't have a kid unless you have sex. And that's not me saying don't have sex till you're married, right? I mean, I wish I would have done that, right? Every single day, I think about it all the time, you know, like how simpler my life would have been if I didn't have sex when I had sex. If I would have just waited till I was married. My life would have been so much easier. But it wasn't. And I didn't have any kids out of wedlock, thank God, you know. But it could have easily happened, right? Because I was a stupid kid having sex. So, like, if I can tell anybody anything, hey, stop having sex until you're married. But just because the stats alone say, like, oh, you know, the odds of this, and this. Now, I understand that these stats don't also mimic divorce, right? And there is a certain racial factor that goes into these stats as well that we won't get into. Um, but that's for another day. But we go into the same thing of so the I have the main stats that kind of made me want to bring this into a topic today. I have them up on the screen. Cad can't see them because he's casting from another place, but I'll read it out loud so he can hear it too. The CDC report reveals that for the eighth straight year, more than 40% of births occurring in the U.S. have been to unmarried women. That's more than 1.6 million annually. To put that into perspective, unwed births jumped from 3.8% in the 40s to 10% in the 70s, and then they doubled to 20% in 83 and grew to 31% by 92. Since 2008, the percentage has raged to the low 40s and and to the higher end of 40.8% in 2010. Since then, it has gradually and marginally declined, but has remained above 40%. 40.2% in both 2014 and 15. That's almost half of the babies born in this country are to single parents, single mothers. It's unacceptable. That's half of those people are. If 90% of all of these things are half of our population, what the? That's a lot. Half of our population, mathematically, are like delinquents, and that's ridiculous. And you can look around like, oh no, all my friends have single moms, they're fine. Half of 360 million people is a lot of fucking people, man. And you might never meet those people because that's how many people it is. Yeah.
So I found it. It's called Explained.
Explained.
Netflix just dropped it. Yeah, it's called Netflix Original Explained. It just got dropped. It's a weekly Netflix episode segment that they're running. The first episode, which I think ties into this whole the single mother thing that you're bringing up, or not even just single mothers, single parents, and sex before marriage and stuff. It's called monogamy, and it's they're taking a look into why that this monogamous the monogamy has fallen off in the last, I'd say, 100 years.
Yeah. Well, I'd say because they need some God in their lives. That's what I'd say. Can I get an amen?
And I think they loosely touch base with that in the episode, but it's worth a look for someone like you, and anybody watching or listening to this. Give it a look. It's interesting information. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoy a good documentary, anyways. So.
And it's a weekly one, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's weeklies, and they're like quick. They're 20-minute like long episodes. They're super quick, so you're not stuck on the couch for 2 hours. And they present their facts. They have an argument, and they leave it. It's obviously it's open-minded. It's not swung one way or the other. It's just an interesting viewpoint on certain things. And like I said, it's not just monogamy every episode. It's a different thing every week. Oh. So like they do monogamy this week, then next week is designer DNA, and then they did racial wealth gap.
Okay.
Wealth gap, excuse me. So yeah. It's interesting web series to watch.
That's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
All right,
Yes.
so if anybody's watching from Netflix, we just did a plug for free, and it's not going to happen again. So you can make checks payable to, well, you just send me an email. You got my email. I mean, come on, I have a Netflix
My people
account.
will
You have my
contact.
email. You have my
My
email.
people will contact your people.
You know, I've been watching The Office and Parks and Rec for like 15 years. Come on.
Yeah.
So we get back on the topic a little bit. These are kind of big ones for me, right? And you, more or less single parent. We're both marginally successful. We're doing well. Um, do you think, because of the stats I put out and the information just given to you, and I promise I didn't make any of it up. Like I got them off of good
No,
sources.
I believe you. I believe you.
Do you think that devaluing sex and the single mother epidemic are related?
Like not so we're not putting it on a pedestal anymore, saying that this
Yeah.
is the only reason that you should be doing this is for this reason,
Well, like the
without saying those reasons.
like what you got into monogamy, right? Do you think like
Mhm.
when monogamy was the only way, right? And I wouldn't say anyone should be shunned either way, but like when you were pretty much frowned upon for not being monogamous,
It was definitely tied directly to Christianity.
right? And as a religious nut, right? I won't go into there, but my thing is, do you think that the way that we as a culture have changed the importance of sex, like sex is no longer an important thing, it is now a recreational thing? And that's my opinion, right? That's what I see. That's what I see on, you know, cable television. I see that on social media. I see my own friends that like I should and I do respect. I see them selling themselves more or less as items of sexual pleasure, right? And there's like those are friends I have that are girls that look really attractive. Like they show themselves like not naked, but they're showing something. And like my guy friends that are really attractive, they do the same thing. You know, like everyone wants to look good for somebody, but I think us as a society changed who's that somebody? Like what's the important somebody, or is it just for everybody? Because like social media, right? We want that recognition all the time. But do you think that devaluing or changing of the value of sex has anything to do with the rise in single mother households?
Um, I could definitely agree with that. I could get down with that because it's so glamorized right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Sex sells, and it's been like that since I'd say probably the 70s. You know, since the hippie movement, like when
Yeah.
the whole free love thing came about, like it sells. It's a money making machine, and when you get down to it, the majority of America, that little tiny uh, record player that plays "My Heart Bleeds for You," you know, I want more money, and it ties into greed and gluttony and all that stuff. But yes, I definitely would agree.
Awesome.
Uh, yes.
You make it. It's so much. It's so easy when you agree with me. Ugh. Oh, see, this is what happens. Like we used to not. We don't. So I've changed the kind of the heartbeat of my podcasting, right? So normally I'd have a lot more for him to argue with, right? Because I'm trying to come from not such a right political view, even though I am predominantly right. Like I'm a registered Republican. I vote Republican. I always will, always have. Um,
I'm an independent.
but that's not to say that I don't have some things that could be misconstrued as liberal viewpoints or left
Agreed.
viewpoints or democratic viewpoints, whatever the fuck you'd call them. They're pretty dumb to say that you know equal rights is a democratic viewpoint, right? Or a Republican viewpoint, right? Well, I mean, it's more of a Republican viewpoint, but we won't even get into that. But it's dumb to categorize one of your hot topics as a right or left topic, right? Like the idea that my idea of Christianity is a right-leaning topic is absurd. Because there's so many people on the
Well,
left that are also Christians.
separation of church and state. It goes back to what you said first. In while it very obviously is, technically, religion and politics are not tied into each other.
And I don't think they should be. I think they have no place. They have no place. It's even in the dang Bible, right? We won't even get into that. But I don't think that your religious views should be a right or left thing. I don't think your stance on legality of abortion should be a right or a left thing. I don't think your stance on gay marriage should be a right or a left thing. I don't think your stance on big government should be a right or a left thing. I think those should just be stances. And you vote for the guy or
Moral
lady,
stances.
moral or political, right? Because like you sometimes you can't have both, right? Like sometimes you need sometimes someone's got to bleed, right? And that's how politics works, and that's why there is a separation of church and state. Because if the state had a morality, a Christian only morality, right? So all these people that are in politics that claim to be Christians, they're obviously lying through their teeth, right? Because they can't do what they do and be a devout Christian. Not saying that there isn't some. I mean, even maybe there's more than I think. What I'm saying is it's impossible. That's why there has to be a separation of church and state. That's why the same reasons there's a separation between your Christian morality and being a combat warrior. Like you're allowed to protect and you're allowed to do certain things, right? And that's why biblical law and our political law have to be different at all times. Now, sometimes they work, right? Where you shouldn't kill people. That sounds about right. I think 100% of the people agree with that, except for the people that kill people. All right. All right, so that's not 100%. So, all right. And here's what I get into, and I know your stance on abortion is this way. It could be a simple yes or no question. Do you think that there is a relationship between the rise in abortion rates from 1973 to now? Do you think there's a relationship between that and the rise of fatherless homes and premarital sex from that time frame? Do you think maybe that has something to do with it? And we can also caveat the devaluing of sex. Do you think that those things have anything to do to contribute the amount of what were they? I wouldn't call them immoral abortions, but where he was talking about like healthy mom, healthy fetus, just deciding to get an abortion. Do you think that number increased when those numbers increased, or do you think there's a relationship?
Yes.
All right. I know you're not. I'm not going to get too much out of you on that one.
Yeah, you're
That's
not.
fine. No, I mean, at least you started off right at the beginning. You didn't like make me look
I have,
like a
I have my,
jackass.
I have my views, and I think they are. I'm more than welcome to discuss them at
Yeah.
another time.
You ever watch that YouTube guy, that redhead dude that always has those funny videos?
Oh, the guy that does like this is how meat eaters think.
Yeah, yeah. He has
If-
one about being offended. He's like, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion as long as their opinion's the same opinion that I have. He's like,
Yeah,
my life has been astronomically better since I've learned how to be professionally offended.
I like his the way he portrays his not necessarily beliefs, just like those social
Yeah.
stances on things.
It's funny because like I like it. He's going left, he's going right, he's going left, he's going right. I like it. All right, we're moving on to the juiciest of the juicy news, right? Because we're a tabloid podcast now. If anybody knows me, Roseanne is my favorite show of all time. It's my favorite show over Parks and Rec. It's my favorite show over The Office. It's my favorite show over any show that's ever been televised. Original Roseanne, greatest show ever made. And that's my opinion. You guys are all entitled to your wrong opinions if you want. Yeah. So I was super excited for the new season to come out, right? And
Well, I think it was already aired, and it. Oh, no,
it's
no, no.
done. The finale's over. I mean, the whole season's over.
They had the season was last. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
My
so
apologies.
I was super excited that this new season came out, and they knocked it out of the park. And everyone was a bit concerned because there was some pro-Trump stuff on ABC Network, and all these people were like, you can't be pro-Trump, which is ridiculous. But then there was so much, like, not anti-Trump, because that's ridiculous. Pro-Trump, anti-Trump is absurd. That's just pro-America or anti-America. Those are the options. So there was so much pro-America in that. Like, besides their stance being Republican and voting for Trump and being middle-class Americans in, where are they? I'm pretty sure it's Michigan, right? So come on, dude. Of course. And then that going into the way she treats people that are foreigners in Michigan, right? Like, she's super nice to them. She's great to them. That's the American dream, right? Like, people want this cultural melting pot, which is not. It's just a whole bunch of different looking Americans. That's our cultural melting pot. And then that's what that show has always perceived to me. It's like, okay, these are the real world Americans. These are the people that live in America.
I feel like, and to interject quickly, when I haven't seen the new season of Roseanne, I have seen episodes from the original air, but I feel like that was the first show to really bring forth the typical American, like,
Right. Like, there's no fucking like what the Full House? That's a joke.
yeah, like,
All those guys got to be like on Xanax or something for that house.
I
to
mean, and you
fucking-
can make the argument for like Married with Children with Al Bundy,
Oh, it's
but
that's terrible.
that was so over the top, like,
Yeah.
but I feel like if you go back and look at Roseanne, it was just like
It was good. It was humble. It was great.
John Goodman and Roseanne, who
John
John
Goodman.
Goodman thinks he runs the house, but really his wife runs that.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah, it's a good show. But all the positives and the niceties about my favorite show of all time got to go away, right? Because
Yep.
Roseanne is, was it a rapist? Racist. Sorry. No, and I wouldn't even call her a racist, right? Because she's a little bit off her rocker, kind of on the right-wing conspiracy world. But all that being said, and she probably watches InfoWars, which I ain't got no beef with you, Alex Jones. Just saying, sometimes you're a little bit nuts. Roseanne, she, after the finale, it's like 2 weeks after the finale, she posts a tweet about a very important member of the Obama administration, initials VJ, we won't go into it, said she looks like the Muslim Brotherhood and the Planets of the Apes had a baby. And I'm sure you guys can say how easily that was either taken out of context or taken in context. I don't know what this lady's thinking. And honestly, VJ is uglier than sin. But either way, I get why she said it, because she's really ugly, but it's unacceptable, right? It's unacceptable when you can't use that platform for these things. I'm not saying censor her. No, she's well within her right to say whatever she wants. What I'm saying is ABC canceled the show, so now I'm pissed. So it's unacceptable. Like, you got to do it for me. You never even met me, but you should be doing this as a personal favor to me, and not say racial shit over Twitter, because I got to watch your show. It's important to me.
Yeah.
And then she also went on a crazy rant about how Chelsea Clinton's married to a Soros. Now, I kind of think she is, but it's neither here nor there. And Chelsea was, in Chelsea Clinton fashion, completely polite and professional, told her, "I'm not married to a Soros, silly." This is all paraphrasing, right? But yeah, so the show's been canceled, and which is weird because the show's success, they brought back the show with Tim Allen. You know what show I'm talking about?
I do not. I do not watch a whole lot of live TV.
I don't either.
honestly.
But
I see it happening on Twitter. I'm active on Twitter.
yeah, there was a
and obviously-
conservative. There was a conservative TV show. I never watched it. I think it's like Man of the House or something like that with Tim Allen. Everyone that's paying attention, you quote me if I'm wrong. I know I am. But it had now Tim Allen is not a conservative person. He was playing a conservative person on television, right? And they didn't like his role because he was like pro-Trump, kind of weirded out by trans, stuff like that, saying, hey, that's not this, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, his daughter was the opposite of him. So they had both parties, but it got pulled off the air even though it had the highest ratings because it had a conservative lead.
Last man standing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, because of Roseanne's conservative viewpoint, like this is her true viewpoint, and Roseanne Barr's character, her conservative viewpoint, and it being the most successful television show in like the history of ABC, they brought Last Man Standing back. Now, in the wake of this, I don't know what's going to happen with that show. I've never seen the show, and I've heard nothing but good things. But like Cad said, I don't watch episodic television unless I can binge watch it on Netflix because I can't afford cable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, but we kind of go into that, and like, unfortunately, I didn't know about this until after the tweet was deleted, but I don't think it really made any. It didn't really matter at all. I don't think this is going to do anything for Roseanne's career. She's extremely successful in her own right. She's one of the most successful female comedians of all time. The only thing it's going to do is stop a show that was off the air for 25 years from coming back next year. So I don't know if it's that big of a deal. John Goodman doesn't have a lot of life left in him, so I'm sure there probably wasn't going to be another season anyways. And Wanda Sykes is mad at her too because of the whole thing, and I don't know about Wanda Sykes all that much. I just remember Wanda at Large was a really funny TV show.
I kind of disagree with you there. It's I mean, as much as I hate to say it, but we're a very easily offended culture right now.
You're right, man. You're right. But
It's 2018. You can't say that shit,
yeah,
man.
you're right.
Like
No, I'm saying the same thing.
I
I know it came off
and
as I wanted to take it personal. I want that show. I want that show. But you can't say those things. Let me say
I've
those things because I'm not going to lose my show. I'm not going to lose this show that a lot of people are counting on for this conservative message, or at least this balanced message. Sorry to interrupt you, man. But
no, you're good. And I made a comment a few years ago. I'm not going to go into it on my social media profile, and it spurned. It was one of those comments that you're kind of when you're scrolling down through your Twitter, your Facebook, and you see 182 comments, like 2 likes, because nobody's liking it because they're just trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers. Like they're just typing away because it triggered them, and I learned my lesson, and that was the last time I ever posted anything somewhat political or leaning towards one side or the other, because in my belief, I don't think that that's what social media is for. I think social media is a place to share stupid videos, possibly talk about sports. But then again,
this video, share this video, share it.
Yeah.
This is a stupid video for social media. You need to share it. Sorry for the plug, Cad.
So, but but I enjoy. I do listen to a lot of controversial stuff on YouTube and stuff like that, and I enjoy it. But I also like for it to be open-minded. Now I understand some people are closed-minded, and that's all right too. You can be set in your ways. I know a lot of people that are set in their ways, and I have no problem hanging out with them. And we just don't talk about those things. It just doesn't get talked about.
You're right. It's like,
But I feel like Roseanne definitely used her pedestal, kind of like the lead singer of the Dixie Chicks when she said something about George Bush, and it ruined her career.
Yeah.
They tried to make her come back, and I just don't think that she's gonna
Well,
bounce back from this one.
ever since country went pop, there's a lot more like liberal people who like country. So
Yeah, I agree.
they'll probably be all right. I mean, it was really out of taste though, and I'm not defending Roseanne because I would never say something like that. That's ridiculous. And you know me, I say stuff like that.
Of course.
But I would never say someone looks like the Muslim Brotherhood and the Planet of the Apes had a baby. And she looks ugly, but like goodness, she's not. That's just me.
It was uncalled for. It was unprofessional, and unlike where I believe that a lot of athletes and actors do use their personal political beliefs, and then they use they voice their opinions using their platform that they're in, which is a highly visible one, to support, I feel like, a warranted argument.
Yeah, no, you're right. And
but sometimes people step over the line. Now, this isn't her supporting anybody. This is her bashing someone.
Just doing whatever she wants to do.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, you can do that sometimes, but it has to be warranted, and it has to be very tact. And she was neither. And
it's unfortunate, man, because like, I don't think that's the start of a conversation, right? Does that make sense? I'm not active on Twitter. I don't have a Twitter. So like, and if I did have one, I would follow Roseanne still to this day. But the thing is, like, I don't have a Twitter, so I have and the Twitter feed's been deleted for obvious reasons. I'm disavowing the comment regardless of what led up to it, but I wonder what the conversation was being had, because who just wakes up and talks about an administrative aid?
Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what happened. I don't know, but then again, the argument presents itself that you just can't.
No, you're right. You're right.
That. Like,
100%.
You just can't do it, and that's my.
People make a living like getting you to say those things. Like driving you up the wall, like just say the N-word, just say the N-word, just say the N-word, just say that.
Yeah,
if you say the N-word, I'll leave you alone. And then you say it like, I'm never going to leave you alone.
And like I said earlier, is the way that we are as a society today, how fast that we can get information. We can either get to information or portray it on the internet, or it's like all that has to do is she makes that. Sally what's her face or Mike what's his face is scrolling down their news feed. Roseanne Barr said, blah, 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 screenshot sent to some tabloid or whatever, done, ruined career right there. And it all happened in the matter of maybe like 30 minutes, probably even less than that.
Yeah, and I mean that's another thing that pisses me off. Everyone's always on Twitter, so like that's like the dumbest platform to do it on, man. Like every
It's and
Ugh.
I'm gonna make another reference here, but Family Guy had an episode where Brian gets a Twitter back, and he goes to the movies, and he makes a comment, and he says, "I'm going to see Ride Along 2." Just kidding, I'm white and I went to college. And he turns his phone off and goes into the movie to see. I can't remember what movie he went to go see, and it just blows up. And it's a funny episode, but it much like these cartoons do nowadays, they touch on those sensitive subjects from a humorous way. But it's like, look at the real picture here.
Yeah, you're right, dude. But like it's, you know what blows my mind is every politician has a Twitter, right? Every famous person has a Twitter, and they just tweet. Like, what are you doing with all your, time? Like, you're just tweeting. You're going on vacation to tweet. You're going here to tweet. You're going there to tweet. I'm in the White House. Tweet, 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 elite, tweet. I don't. I don't have any problems with social media, right? For the people that are active on those things, like, cause like I had a Twitter, and for what it was, I thought it was fun. I just didn't post on it, so I got rid of it because it would be a waste of my time. It was just adding one extra social media in my cycle while I'm going to the bathroom. You know what I mean? But
No,
I
you go
always
Snapchat. Now I go to Instagram. Now
yeah,
Twitter.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. And
okay,
I always
wait. Now my Twitter's refreshed. I gotta go check that again.
yeah. So
They're
like
just
the funny
constantly.
posts are always great, but someone's like, I just had a burrito. I'm like, I don't give a shit about your burrito. It probably wasn't even good. And why didn't you get me a burrito? Because that's more what I'm thinking about. Like, we're friends. I follow you on Twitter. You follow me on Twitter. Where's my burrito? Because that'd be a real social media.
Just don't say the burrito looks like a.
Oh, a Muslim brother,
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes, baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I shouldn't do that. All right, I think we could close it out on a good one, man. I really appreciate you, Cad. Go back to the main screen. These are the topics we went over. I don't know what you're going to be able to fast forward to when I put this on YouTube. Hopefully, I'll set up the times. And if you would, please, these videos will be coming more often than they have been. Revamping the YouTube, revamping the Facebook page and everything like that. So we'll have a merchandise store and everything. You want to follow me? The link, subscribe, like, whatever you want to do. And Mr. Cad's social media links will be at the bottom in the link description as well.
Yeah,
Thanks everyone. Our number one sponsor, Netflix, apparently. Thank you for that, Cad.
Hey, reach out to me if you have any questions or anything.
Yeah,
More than
and
happy to debate.
our other sponsor is craftbeer.org, and that's every craft beer. So you got to give us money too, because we said you're a craft beer. So because Cad likes craft beer, and I'm a bourbon guy, but they're not paying me they're not paying me, so I'm not telling you what I drink. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Like I said, follow and like, and we'll get more videos.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.